Hey everyone, it's Brattle, and welcome back to my channel. I just wanted to get on here and give y'all a little bit of update on Buddy. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about the expenses of owning a horse. So as you know, Buddy has a pink face, and that in itself is an issue as far as like sunburn, things like that. They're very susceptible to things like skin cancer and all that. As you know, Buddy does have places on his eye that we are almost 100% sure are skin cancer. And we are doing our best to take care of that. Of course, with all that, things can get a little expensive. So just recently, Buddy had a place on his sheath show up. It was swollen. We were pretty sure it was some kind of mass, but we weren't really positive. The vet came out and said, give it 2 weeks. It could be a bug bite that just, swelled up, and it just needs some time to, go back down. And so we gave it 2 weeks, and nothing happened. So we had to schedule an appointment for him to be able to take it off. Because usually with the pink skin, because it was pink on his sheath and on his belly, that's usually where it spreads to. The cancer does. And if that was what it was, he said it was better to just go ahead and cut it off, get rid of it while it's still small, keep it from spreading down there. So the vet came, took care of it, got it all out, they cleaned it all out, and they definitely said it was cancer. So that's definitely what it was when they pulled it out. They sewed him back up, and they also checked his teeth. He had dropped a little weight, and we weren't really sure if it was because he's been kind of on a new diet since he's been here, and it was just now kind of starting to have a real effect on him. But anyway, so she checked his teeth, and of course he needed his teeth floated. So they went ahead and scheduled another appointment so that she could come out and take out the stitches, and she would bring all the equipment and float his teeth when she came back. So that first visit where they took off the mass was about, I believe, $360. Yeah, so that was exciting. And the next vet appointment was scheduled the next week. So we fast forward a week later, and she takes out the stitches, floats his teeth. Great, Between the first week, the first vet appointment, and the second vet appointment, board money was due, so that was another $850. So $360 and then $850, and then when she came and took the stitches out, floated his teeth, she did actually she ended up checking on Rio because he had actually gotten something in his eye, and it had caused his eye to swell up, and we weren't really sure if it was something in his eye or what the deal was. So we had been washing it out and keeping it clean, and kept a fly mask on him, and for the most part kind of kept him in just in case it was something like with the bugs or whatever was aggravating him. And she checked on that, and it turned out that he had poked his eye, and you could see this one little spot on his eye where a little cyst was from, but it was actually healing on its own. His eye actually looked a lot better when she got there, and she gave us a little bit of ointment to put on the inside of his eye. And so that was extra. So by the time that appointment was over, that was about probably around $240. So by the time board money, 2 vet appointments, and the whole surprise with Rio and his eye, it ended up being about $1,400 in 2 weeks. The first vet appointment was kind of like, yeah, and then you had the unexpected thing with the eye, and then the teeth. I don't know what he thinks he's going to get. Anyway, it's like 95 degrees out here, and so they've been in the stalls like all morning and most of the hot day. And so I'm letting them out to eat grass while I'm here. And then they're going back in because it's just too hot. Too hot. Anyway, so the vet came. So it was a Thursday on the first appointment. And then a week later was Thursday for the next appointment. And so on Friday, so Buddy had had his stitches taken out. You know, he was, ooh, I shouldn't have to pay money for a while. He should be good. And then Friday morning rolls around. And I come to the barn, like I usually do, every late afternoon. And Buddy is as sore as he could be on his bad leg. Yeah, the day after the vet was there. Of course, right? That's just how it, for you equestrians out there, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm just gonna insert a little clip here of what it looked like. I was pretty upset. I was like, great, you know, I've just had all this stuff done for one part of your issue, and now your leg is acting up, and now there goes Buddy inside the barn. Inside the barn. Oh! I don't know what spooked him. I think it was Rio. I think he didn't expect Rio, because I can see Rio is kind of standing close to the door, and I don't think he expected him to be standing near the door. That's funny. He's scared of the pig, so I'm pretty sure that's what he thought it was at first. Anyway, so I was pretty upset, and my first thought was, he's been in the stall for a while, you know, waiting for the wound to heal. And I'm sorry, before I said it was 1 week between vet visits, it was actually 2 weeks. And it was in between those 2 weeks that I had to pay board money. Yeah, I'm sorry. He had been in the stall for 2 weeks, keeping, you know, the incision and the stitches clean, because heaven forbid we have an infection and then have to deal with that. And so finally, he was getting, you know, the stitches out, whatever, and I was just happy about that. And then we have this whole thing with the leg. And I thought that because he had been in the stall for 2 weeks and had to deal with all that, that maybe when he went out into the pasture again, he might have overdone it and twisted his ankle or twisted his knee or whatever, and just was having a little bit of issue, was just a little sore. So the first day I was like, okay, one day he could be sore today and then just be a little bit less sore tomorrow, and just, you know, a couple days of just leaving him in the stall and letting him rest a little bit and seeing, you know. 2 days went by, 3 days went by, and we are giving him bute, and we're keeping him in a stall, which is kind of a good bad thing, because he stays in the stall too long, and because of his arthritis he gets stiff. But he had the leg injury, so if he didn't stay in his stall, it would make it worse. So it was kind of difficult, to say the least. Finally, my barn manager and I were kind of like, we need to do something. So she scheduled a vet appointment, and we decided we were just going to take Buddy to the vet and see what was going on. So as the days went by and we were waiting on the vet appointment, because we couldn't go to the vet until that next Friday, so a week after we discovered his issue, he started having some times where he was actually worse than even the first day. And in fact, there was one day that it was so bad, like he was tiptoeing. And I was worried. I mean, really, the whole week. I was pretty much going to bed at night crying, essentially. And just praying that he was going to be all right, because I thought, I'm going to lose my horse. I thought, his leg's broken. There's nothing that I'm going to be able to do. You know, it was his bad leg. So I had a lot of people praying for him. Thanks to my mother, she sent out a mass text, which was great. People were texting me, telling me they were praying for me and praying for Buddy, and I was really happy, because I mean, honestly, like, I knew when my barn manager was kind of giving some hints just in the way that she talked and the way that she was kind of looking at Buddy, that she was thinking the same thing I was. This was it. There was nothing more that we were going to be able to do for him. And so Friday came along, and I was a nervous wreck. I came up to the barn to meet her so we could load him onto the trailer, and I was slightly relieved when he started walking a little bit better. I mean, he was still limping, like he was, but it wasn't quite as severe as it had been. So that was a bit of encouragement for me. So we go to the vet's office. We get there, and she starts messing with his leg. And the reason that we thought that it was broken was because he was really swollen. Like, his knee is always kind of big anyway, but it was especially swollen. Down his leg under his knee was swollen, and that was just very unusual. And it just, everything about it just was just not typical of just something that he was going to come back from. And so when we got to the vet, she started messing with his knee and his leg just to see if that was where the pain was coming from. And every time she would touch it, he wouldn't even be bothered by it. So she was like, I don't think it's his knee, because he doesn't seem to, you know, be worried that I'm touching it or messing with it. And so she did a nerve blocker and blocked out the nerves in his foot. And lo and behold, he started walking around normally. And she was like, okay, so it's not in his leg, it's in his foot, whatever it is. And she said, I'm fairly sure it's an abscess. Which I'm sitting there just like about to cry, because I'm just so happy that it's not his knee, and it's not as bad as I thought it was, and it's not even as bad as my barn manager thought it was. And so I walked him around, you know, to show what the effects of the nerve blocker had done. And so he walks around in a big circle inside their little medical barn, and walks around normally. And then she goes to pick up his foot to put some packing on it. She's like, I'm going to put this on it. Should be able to stay on for 3 to 5 days, and if the abscess is in there, hopefully this will help it, you know, pop, and then just get the farrier out so that you can start the process of, you know, cleaning all that out. As she picks up his foot, the abscess popped while we were walking around. Whew. Let me tell you, that was just a huge answer to prayer. I mean, like, prayers were answered that day, because there was not even a thought in our minds about it being an abscess, just the way that he was walking. And, you know, I had looked, and I didn't really see anything in his foot, because I kept pulling out. He has horrible feet anyway. It just comes with the fact that he's all crooked, and so the way that his feet grow, they look awful anyway. He started walking around better, and I was just like, hallelujah. And so she said, okay, well, I'm still going to put this on so that it'll keep it from getting infected, and it'll also help, you know, keep it clean, whatever. And just make sure he walks around a lot so he will drain all that out. We were like, okay, we can do that. So now we are waiting on the farrier to come and scrape all the rest of that out, make sure that he's all good, and he needs his feet done anyway. Oh yeah, so after the vet came the second time, they were both due for feet and wormer, which was another like $50 each, $50 each. That was for both worming and feet. We didn't do Buddy's feet just because we were worried about his leg at the time, so we wanted to see what would happen first. And so the vet appointment where we went and took him and found out that it was an abscess, praise the Lord, that ended up being, with the travel fees to get him up there, was $180. So I spent almost $1,600 in a matter of about 3 weeks. Very unexpected. you know, I just had no idea that I was going to be spending that much money that quickly. And, you know, in the horse world, that's just normal. You just never know what's going to happen, and that's why it's important to know what you're getting into before you start buying horses. Owning a horse is very expensive. I'm not saying this to discourage you from owning a horse, because it is above worth it. I mean, like, if I could go back and choose to buy Buddy, I would still buy him. Knowing all that I know now, I would still buy him. I might do things differently as far as how I've taken care of him, just because I know a lot more now than I did then. You know, it's, you know, so different. It's so different owning your own horse and taking lessons even consistently. I mean, owning a horse will teach you so many things that you would never have learned before. But it is very important that when you are choosing a horse, that you are choosing a horse with as limited amount of pre-existing issues as possible. That's why it's important to have your vet check them out. Now, we did have a vet check Buddy, but honestly, I don't think that she thought that he was going to have these kind of issues in the future. I think that she thought a lot of different things about his knee at the time. I mean, his knee was crooked. His knee was more crooked than it is now. And for some reason, she thought that a lot of exercise, which a lot of exercise did help him. And it actually straightened it out a lot, but she was not very clear about, you know, or even kind of being like, hey, you know, yes, it'll straighten out, you know, if you work him out and keep it strong. That's the only issues you're really going to have. But also think about the fact that in the future, he's probably going to have issues with arthritis. And you know, you know about arthritis, but you don't really think about it in horses, especially when you're, how old was I? 12. That's not what I was thinking about back then. And, you know, that's just something important to always think about. And then with the pink skin on the face, he had one of those places on his eye when I first bought him. It was a really little place, and I didn't think anything about it because she said, oh, I'm pretty sure that's just sunburn. Yeah, that's not what it was. In fact, a few months later, she ended up having to take it off, and we never got it sent out to see what it was because it was really expensive. And back then, we did not have a ton of money to spend on horses, and I was depending a lot on my mother and the fact that I had a stash of money that I had saved, but that was depleting, and I didn't have a job at the time, so that was nice. But I paid for pretty much everything for the first couple years. I had enough money to do that. But it's not to say that there is this perfect horse that's going to have no issues, that you're just going to find, that you got to find that one horse that will never, ever, ever have any medical issues, nothing. They're not going to have feet issues, they're not going to have nothing. No. You try to find a horse that is on your level, yes, and you want to find one that has the least amount of issues that you can handle as possible. And you want them to be able to do the stuff that you want to do, you know? You want them to be healthy enough and young enough, not too young, but young enough that if you're looking into a career of riding, or, you know, there's a lot of things to consider. But even the healthiest, most perfect, athletic, never had any problems in the past, feet are always perfect, never worries about weight, even those horses will have your surprise issues. So when owning a horse, one of my biggest pieces of advice is save your money. Anytime that you have that extra money to put back, you just put it back. I actually have different bank accounts, and every time I get my paycheck, I divide it up into each count. I divide up a certain percentage. I divide up a certain amount of money into my horse account so that every time I get paid, it builds up over the amount that I normally spend every month. so that if something like this happens, and just like it did happen, I have the money that I can actually spend and not be worrying about, oh my gosh, I'm like having to take out a loan or borrow money. So it's very important to think about these things when owning a horse. Anyway, I just wanted to give you guys a little history on what has happened over the past month. Just a little update, whatever. But he's doing great. I will enter a clip of how he's walking. Come on. But yeah, he's doing great, and we're just waiting on the farrier. He's going to do even better soon, and hopefully I'll be able to start walking him some more and maybe eventually ride a little bit just to get some more strength in that leg, because exercise is just going to make him walk that much better once he gets to a good point. I hope that if you are a new equestrian or you're thinking about getting into horses, that this helped you think about it at least. If you really love it and that's what you want to do and you have a passion for it, go for it. Yes, it's expensive and you're going to have to work hard, and you're going to feel like, I can't go and do other things because I don't have the money to, because I have to spend it all on my horses. And you know what? I do that a lot, and I could care less about all that other stuff because this is what I love. This is what I chose to spend my money on. This is where all my money goes, pretty much. And my dogs, but they're not as expensive most of the time. But yeah, that's the thing, guys. If you love this, it's easy to spend that money. I mean, you know, it hurts, but it's not something that you sit there and go, maybe I'll just skip out. It's, it hurts me, but I love this, so I'm just going to spend the money because I have to. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And don't forget, be brave. Be brave. I'll see you in the next video, guys.